You know, there are many things about the Christmas story that I love, and I'm just for a few moments going to unpack one particular aspect. But who likes treasure hunts? I like finding things, but I don't like hunting for them. Do you? You know, one of my worst experiences was when my wife lost one of her contact lenses in a revolving door. In a supermarket, not in a supermarket, in a department store. And just that moment where she shouts, everybody, stop! Somewhere there is a contact lens here. I've spent long time searching for all sorts of things over the years, but I'm sure this Christmas that you've spent some time searching for things. And I want to talk about the big search. So just a few moments ago, we had an insight into the psychology of many of the men among us. And we found out that many of you regard December the 24th as a very key day in your diary, because that is the day that you know you still have 2 hours that the shops are open, and therefore you can complete all of your tasks. The big search for a present can happen on the 24th of December. And I don't know about you, but I find searching for the right present for the right person to be quite a challenge. It's like a treasure hunt. Anybody else know what I mean? No. Some of you are like, oh, I've had Christmas organized since January last year. You bought them all in the January sale and you're well sorted. But most of us, that search is pretty stressful. But there's another search at Christmas, because if you drive into the city center of Exeter, as we normally would on a Sunday, we have an experience where we're trying to search for parking spaces. And it results in people making all sorts of crazy, silly decisions. Searching for a parking space is a bit of a challenge at this time of year. Exeter just doesn't seem to have enough of them. And so those searches go on. But then some of us visit friends and family. The other week, I was down in Plymouth, meeting our leaders of our church in Plymouth, going for a Christmas meal together in a lovely restaurant in the middle of the countryside, and my sat-nav got me there fine. But my sat-nav had already made the journey. It should have known better. Maybe I should have known better. But this sat-nav, about 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, took me through a country lane that I saw signs in front of me that said, dead end. But my sat-nav said, it's okay, carry on going. And in this thin country lane on a foggy December night, I trusted my sat-nav over my brain and ended up in someone's drive in the middle of the countryside, surrounded by cows and other farm animals, thinking, I think we should turn around and go back to the place that we were before we got lost. The search continues in many ways over this Christmas season, but we go back to the original Christmas story and we see that there are quite a number of searches in the Christmas story, in the Nativity, that we understand. We see that Mary and Joseph searched for an inn and they just couldn't find any room. They went to the Travel Lodge, the Premier Inn, the Holiday Inn, and they couldn't find anything. And they searched and searched, and we know they ended up in a stable where baby Jesus was born. But there are other searches. There are the searches of what we call the wise men. And they traveled probably for a number of years in order to get to that place. They followed this star and they got to where Jesus was. A number of years on that treasure hunt, searching for who they understood was a king that was about to be born. But there was another search, and that was a king that was already established in the day, King Herod. He wanted a search for his rival because the wise men told King Herod that a king was being born, and he got a little bit jealous and thought, I want to know where this king is because I want to take his life because I don't want any threat to the throne. So there was a search for a rival that was taking place. But there are other searches. I'm sure that you understand that in life, there are some things we lose that are inconvenient, and there are some things that we lose that change our whole lives. There have been a number of very high-profile cases where parents have been searching for their children, and they've been searching for something precious in their family that's gone missing. And we've seen in the press over many years now the passionate search of this little girl's family that have just given everything they can to try and locate their daughter. But there are other searches. When I walk up and down the streets of Exeter, I see people sitting down with blankets over them and woolly hats on, and I see them with just very little in regards to what there seems to be available in this world. And I think many of them, I sometimes sit down with them and talk with them and just try to get an insight into their story and into their life. And some are maybe here this morning that you were once in a place where you were not just searching, but you were actually lost. You didn't think there was any meaning to your life. You didn't think there was any purpose to your day. And so you end up in the gutter because you just feel your life's worth nothing more than that. But this real search that I want to talk about this morning is the search of what the Bible describes as a father in heaven who has come searching for his missing kids. And we read that he sent his son, who chose to lay aside all the trappings of his kingliness and his majesty and all the trappings of heaven, and to descend down to this earth. And there was no fanfare, there were no big sort of receptions, there was no Sky TV exclusive. It was just a few people in a stable. And the angels appeared to the shepherds, and the wise men were there. It came probably sometime later, but there was this search. It was Jesus on a treasure hunt. It was God on a treasure hunt for people that were lost. I love, there's a version in the Message, which is a paraphrased version of the Bible, and it says this, that God moved into our neighborhood. I've got some friends in Manchester that they take teams to move into the most needy communities and needy areas, and they rent a house or they buy a house in that area, and they just love on that community. In fact, there was an article in the Telegraph a number of years ago that said, could these young people raise the value of your home? Because what was happening, by moving into the community, these people were getting involved with the fabric and the needs of society, and they were seeing changes come about around them. That in a way that wasn't possible by government decisions down in Westminster or by some policy decision in a boardroom of the local council. It's only possible through people becoming neighbors and moving into the community. And I love that Jesus came to move into our neighborhood, our community, our need. And we see that he wasn't a distant God in any way whatsoever. In fact, we see there were people that society were rejecting, that Jesus welcomed and loved and touched. There was a woman who was caught in something she shouldn't have been doing, and everyone around her was saying this lady should be punished because of what she's done. And Jesus took her hand and he loved her and he said, go sin no more. There were lepers that no one else would touch, and Jesus touched them and healed them and made them well. You see, the reason that happened was because they were the reason Jesus came. Because he was on a treasure hunt. He was searching for them. He was looking for that and those which are lost. But he knew this wasn't going to be an easy treasure hunt. In fact, before he came and moved into our neighborhood, he knew that there was something going to be demanded of him. And that was that he was going to have to give his life. And we read that Jesus gave his life on the cross. If you think this is just some made-up story, I want you to know there is more fact. There's more historical facts that say Jesus died on a cross than there are that the Battle of Hastings took place. This is a historical moment in the world, and it all rises and falls on this. And Jesus didn't just give his life on a cross to pay the price for you. It's like you having a big outstanding debt that you can't pay, and someone who is able to afford that big debt comes along and says, I'm going to pay it for you. And that's what Jesus died on the cross was about. He came to this world, stepped down from heaven, came in humble circumstances. He loved ordinary people, and he gave his life because he wanted to pay the price for the debt of the shame and the sin in their lives. That's the treasure hunt of God. That's the big search of the Christmas story. It's not a young couple looking for an inn. It's not some wise men following a star. It's God searching for you. That's the Christmas story. And in this room, there are hundreds of us that have found, actually, let me put that correctly, have been found by Jesus. Across this city, there are thousands of us who have been found by Jesus. Across this nation, there are millions of us. Across the world, there are multi-millions of people of all shapes and sizes, backgrounds, creeds, cultures, social positions that have experienced being found by God. And the good news for you today is that you can be found by God also. Jesus, who came into that stable, he came because in my life and in your life, there is like a missing piece. There's something that just is not there. And we can try and search through our careers, through our relationships, through our financial status. We can try all sorts of things to satisfy that missing piece. But I've met many people who have been successful in all those areas, and yet there's still something missing. It's a little bit like a few weeks ago, I upgraded my headphones to a pair of Bluetooth earpieces. So when I go to the gym, I don't have to have this wire cabling from my head down to my phone. I can just connect it, and I can just put the phone down on a little shelf on the exercise equipment I'm using, and I can just do it wire-free. It's wonderful technology. Except the other week, I used this, and then I moved on to the next bit of equipment, and the next bit of equipment, and I was still listening to the audiobook that I had been listening to when I first started my exercise. But after about 40 minutes, I realized that I didn't have my phone. I'd left it on one of the pieces of equipment. Now, I could still hear what was being said because there's a range between where the phone needs to be and where the headphones are. I could still hear the signal, but I just didn't have the source. Yeah. And that missing piece in our lives is because you were designed to have a connection with God. And there's something in us that says, I can hear something. It may be in this room, you've had dreams, you've had questions, you've had thoughts. There have been all sorts of stuff that's gone through your mind and your heart, and you don't know where to turn with that. In fact, you don't really trust anybody to tell them those things. But some of those things, many of those things are coming because even though you've not got the item of Jesus or the person of Jesus, there's still something of a connection because you were designed to be connected. And the great news is this, that he's not just a missing piece like a jigsaw piece. He is our peace. He brings peace between us and God. And the Bible says this, if you seek me, you will find me. What a promise. It's no small print. There's no asterisk underneath that says some will and some won't. There's a clear promise by Jesus. Those who seek me will find me. Jesus has come looking for you. And this Christmas, you might want a new iPad. You might want a new PlayStation. You might want your favorite music download. You might want a gift card. You might just want to be with your family and have turkey. I don't know what you want, but I tell you what you need. You need Jesus. Because he's the only one who can satisfy that inner peace.